The rain tapped softly against the glass walls of the Kingston estate, a mansion so large that even the echoes of footsteps got lost inside it, and yet within all its splendor, silence ruled like a king. It was the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful but heavy, painful, and at the center of it was a 4-year-old boy named Aiden Kingston, the only son of billionaire entrepreneur Adrian Kingston, a man the world admired but a father who carried a heartbreak so deep that even his billions couldn't heal it. Aiden had never spoken a word since birth. Doctors called it trauma-linked mutism. Therapists said he needed years. Specialists flew from country to country, each leaving with the same defeated sigh. Nothing helped. The boy lived in a quiet world of his own, observing everything with wide, intelligent eyes but saying absolutely nothing, not mama, not papa, not help, not even a cry. After the tragic death of his mother when he was only 6 months old, Adrian tried to fill the void with the most expensive care, the most qualified professionals, and the most cutting-edge therapy, but Aiden remained locked inside himself like a treasure no one could reach. That was until Elena Hart walked into the mansion for the first time. Elena was not famous. She was not from a reputable agency. And she wore no polished smile meant to impress. She simply stood there on the marble floor, holding a worn-out bag, her hair pulled back in a modest bun, her uniform neatly pressed, and her eyes radiating a calmness the mansion had long forgotten. Adrian almost dismissed her the moment he saw her. She didn't fit the profile of the elite therapists he was used to hiring. She didn't show off degrees or certificates. But there was something else about her, something genuine, something still, something painfully rare, and when Aiden peeked from behind the staircase and stared at her with cautious curiosity, Elena knelt down, slowly, gently, and whispered, "Hi, sweetheart. I've been waiting to meet you." Aiden didn't respond. He simply blinked, then vanished behind the railing like a frightened kitten, but Adrian noticed something he had not seen in over a year. Aiden didn't hide his face. Normally, he shielded himself, shrinking behind his arms, but not this time. Something in that moment made Adrian say, "You're hired," even though he had no logical explanation for why. From that day onward, the mansion began to change, not loudly but subtly, like a room that slowly fills with sunlight after years of darkness. Elena didn't force Aiden to speak. She didn't push books, flashcards, or therapy tools. Instead, she followed him. She observed what fascinated him. She sat beside him quietly, as though telling him with her presence, "You don't have to talk if you're not ready, I'm here anyway." She worked in the garden, humming softly, and Aiden watched from the window. She cooked warm meals and left a small plate shaped like a smiley face for him every afternoon. She cleaned his toys but always placed them back in the exact order he left them, respecting his tiny world instead of rearranging it. And slowly, the little boy who avoided everyone began trailing behind her like a silent shadow. He sat on the floor beside her when she folded laundry. He stood next to her when she watered the plants. He lay beside her on the carpet while she read stories aloud, even though he never reacted, not a word, not a sound, not a gesture, yet he stayed, and that alone was progress no therapist had achieved. Adrian noticed. He watched from afar, confused and curious. How was this woman succeeding where the world's best professionals had failed? But Elena never took credit. "Children speak when they feel safe," she said simply. And safety doesn't come from methods. It comes from hearts. One rainy afternoon, everything changed. Thunder cracked loudly, shaking the windows, and Aiden, who normally froze in fear, rushed straight into Elena's arms, trembling. She held him close, stroking his back, whispering, "I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." Adrian stood in the hallway, unseen, watching with a tightness in his chest. He had never seen his son seek comfort so willingly. Over the next weeks, Aiden remained close to Elena, closer than ever. He began tapping her arm when he needed something, tugging lightly on her sleeve when he wanted her attention, leaning against her shoulder when he was tired. Elena responded with gentle patience, a warmth that came like instinct. One night, after reading him a story, she touched his cheek softly and said, "Your voice is not lost, sweetheart. It's just resting. And when it's ready, I'll be here to hear it." She expected nothing in return. But Aiden stared at her longer than usual, his wide eyes deep with a longing she understood without words. Then came the moment, the impossible moment. It was a quiet morning. Sunlight streamed into the living room as Elena lay on the floor lifting Aiden above her playfully, making him giggle silently. Adrian had come home early from a business trip, walking into the mansion expecting the usual quiet emptiness. But as he stepped inside, he froze. Elena was on the floor, smiling up at Aiden with pure joy, and the child, his child, had a sparkle in his eyes he had never seen in years. For the first time, Aiden wasn't blank or distant, he was alive, playful, radiant. Adrian took a step forward, stunned beyond belief. Elena, noticing him, gently lowered Aiden and whispered, "Papa's home." That's when it happened. Aiden turned his head, looked straight at his father, really looked, and the world seemed to stop around them. A beat passed. Then another. And then, in a small, shaky voice that sounded like sunlight breaking through clouds, Aiden whispered one single word, "Dad." The briefcase in Adrian's hand slipped to the floor with a thud. His breath caught. Tears rushed to his eyes instantly. For a moment he couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't believe what he had heard. Elena gasped softly, her hands covering her mouth as tears filled her eyes. But Aiden wasn't done. He stepped toward Adrian slowly, uncertainly, then reached out and touched his father's trembling hand. "Dad," he said again, stronger this time. Adrian fell to his knees, pulling his son into a shaking embrace, sobbing in pure, overflowing relief. "Aiden, my boy, you spoke." The mansion, silent for so many years, suddenly felt warm, alive, reborn. Elena stood back, wiping her tears, her heart swelling with gratitude, though she knew this moment belonged to father and son alone. Later that evening, when Aiden finally fell asleep, Adrian approached Elena with eyes still red and voice still trembling. "How did you do it?" he whispered. Elena shook her head gently. "I didn't," she replied. "He did. All he needed was love that expected nothing in return." And Adrian understood then what his money could never buy: connection, gentleness, patience, and a heart willing to understand instead of fix. That night, after so many years of emptiness, hope finally lived in the Kingston mansion again. And for anyone watching this story right now, remember, miracles don't always happen in hospitals or therapy rooms. Sometimes they happen in the quiet presence of someone who truly cares. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because more inspiring stories like this are waiting just for you. Your support helps these stories reach others who need a little hope today.